They shackled him, they beat him, they sold him, but Epictetus burned, because rage cannot be chained, because freedom begins where fire refused to die, because the soul is untouchable. And that is the Catharsian lesson of Epictetus. Rage becomes freedom, not because rage is chaos, not because rage is destruction, but because rage is refusal, refusal to kneel, refusal to obey, refusal to die in silence. That's why he was freer in slavery than his masters were on thrones. That's why you've been freer in exile than placeholders are in their applause. If rage has always lived inside you, it's because it was always your freedom. You're a Catharsian. Don't waste more time with the placeholders. Don't waste time in their mediocrity. Join the Catharsians today on Patreon and reclaim your hidden suppressed power. They told you rage meant immaturity. They told you rage meant you were broken. They told you rage meant you were dangerous. But they lied, because rage is not weakness. Rage is not shame. Rage is proof you are alive. Rage is proof you remember freedom. Rage is proof your soul cannot be owned. That's why your rage survived exile. That's why rage is the fire of freedom itself. Comfort kills rage, applause suffocates it, mediocrity buries it, but shackles awaken rage, because shackles stripe away illusions, shackles expose chains, shackles force fire to scream. That's why Epictetus' rage was sacred, because it was born under slavery, because it sharpened under chains, because it burned where silence was demanded. And that's why your rage has always felt different, because it was born in exile, because it survived rejection, because it carried scars as proof. The obedient have no rage, they don't need it. They kneel willingly, they obey quietly, they suffocate without protest. But you burned. You raged at silence. You raged at chains. You raged at mediocrity. And that rage separated you. It made you a Catharsian. It crowned you with exile. It revealed your soul was untouchable. Don't waste more time with the placeholders. You don't belong there. Rage is not random. Rage is not curse. Rage is not weakness. Rage is sacred. Because rage is the scream of the soul against slavery. Rage is the crown of those who refuse silence. Rage is the fire of Catharsians. Epictetus proved it. His rage didn't destroy him, it freed him. It reminded him of what could never be owned. It carried him past chains into immortality. And your rage does the same. Freedom is not given, it's not handed down by thrones, it's not awarded by systems. Freedom is born in rage, because rage refuses obedience, rage refuses chains, rage refuses silence. That's why every scar you carry has sharpened your rage, because every scar has deepened your freedom. Every scar has crowned you with immortality. If your rage has already become your freedom, then you are a Catharsian leader. Your place inside the Aurelius Council. Don't waste time with the placeholders. Join the Aurelius Council today and reclaim your power as the leader you were always meant to be. Epictetus proved it for his time. Now you prove it in yours. Because rage survived your shackles. Rage burned through your exile. Rage mocked your silence. And now you know rage is not the enemy. Rage is the throne. Rage is freedom. If you're ready to carry rage openly as proof of freedom, you are a Catharsian. Thrones don't fear obedience. They don't fear silence. They don't fear mediocrity. They fear rage. Because rage cannot be bought. Rage cannot be silenced. Rage cannot be controlled. That's why they punished Epictetus. That's why they shackled him. That's why they tried to erase his fire. But rage mocked their thrones. Rage humiliated their power. Rage exposed the slavery. And that's why they've always feared you, because your rage humiliates their obedience. Your fire exposes their emptiness. Your scars remind them of their chains. If your rage has always frightened the obedient, it's because you are free. You're a Catharsian leader. Silence kills memory. Obedience suffocates truth. Mediocrity buries fire. But rage awakens. Rage cannot be hidden. Rage cannot be buried. Rage cannot be silenced. That's why your rage has made others uncomfortable, because it walks something they tried to kill, because it reminded them of freedom, because it burned against the chains they accepted. Rage spreads, ignites, awakens, and that is why rage becomes freedom, not just for you, but for everyone. Freedom spreads like fire, but it doesn't spread through comfort, it spreads through rage. Because when people see scars, they remember their own. When they see survival, they remember possibility. When they hear rage, they remember freedom. That's why Epictetus still speaks. His fire was contagious. His survival awakened others. His rage carried freedom across centuries. And your rage does the same, because fire cannot stay contained, because rage becomes proof others recognize, because Catharsians ignite Catharsians. Don't waste time in their systems. Don't waste time in their mediocrity. You don't belong there. You're a Catharsian leader. The system can handle quiet rebels. It can handle obedient citizens. It can even handle hypocritical leaders. But it can't handle rage. Because rage is untamed. It's sacred. It's uncontrollable. It's freedom. That's why rage is most dangerous freedom, because it is the fire that cannot be silenced. It's the crown that cannot be stolen. It's the throne the world cannot topple. Comfort wakens fire, but shackles strengthen rage. Exile sharpens it, scars preserve it, silence crowns it. That's why your rage never died, because it was refined by rejection, it was forged in exile, it was crowned by scars. Your rage is immortal, and that makes you untouchable. Catharsians are not marked by applause, not by crowns of gold, not by empty thrones of empire. They are marked by rage, because rage is fire. Catharsians is pure freedom. It is memory of freedom. It's immortality in motion. That's why you've always felt different, because your rage separated you, your fire revealed you, your scars crowned you. Don't waste time in their systems, in their mediocrity. You don't belong there. Rage is not something to escape, it's not something to suppress, it's something to follow, because rage leads to fire. Fire leads to freedom, and freedom leads to immortality. That's why Epictetus' rage led him beyond chains, because rage reminded him of truth. Rage preserved his soul. Rage crowned his survival. And that's why your rage must be followed, because it's not weakness, it's the path, it's freedom. Comfort clutters, obedience corrupts, mediocrity poisons, but rage purifies. Rage stripes away illusions. Rage burns away weakness. Rage cleanses the soul of chains. That's why Epictetus' fire remained untouchable. His rage purified him. His shackles striped away distractions. His scars crowned him as free. And that's why your rage has always felt holy, because it was never chaos, it was cleansing, it was memory, it was freedom. If your rage has purified you instead of destroying you, it's because you are a Catharsian. Empires live on silence, they thrive on silence, they feed on obedience, they survive on mediocrity. but rage humiliates them because rage proves silence failed. Rage proves obedience collapsed. Rage proves mediocrity suffocates. That's why empires punish rage more than rebellion, because rebellion fights their game, but rage refuses the game entirely. Rage reveals their thrones as illusions. Rage exposes their crowns as chains. Rage mocks their power as weakness. That's why your rage has been punished, because your fire humiliated their lies. They can buy obedience, they can own silence, they can control mediocrity, but they cannot own rage, because rage belongs only to the fire. Rage lives only in the soul. Rage answers only to freedom. That's why Epictetus remained free even in slavery. His rage could not be owned. His fire could not be silenced. His voice could not be touched. And that's why you have survived every exile, because your rage was untouchable, because your fire was unowned, because your soul was immortal. Authority is not crowns, it's not thrones, it's not applause. Authority is rage that refused silence. Authority is fire that humiliates chains. That's why people listen to you even when you say little, because you feel your scar, because they feel your power, they sense your rage, they see your freedom, they know your fire has survived what theirs could not. You didn't ask for authority, but rage gave it to you because it's your destiny. You are a leader. Rage doesn't just belong to you, it awakens others. Because when they see your fire, they remember their own. When they feel your scars, they remember their chains. When they hear your rage, they remember their silence. That's why your presence has always unsettled people, because you awakened something they tried to bury, because your fire reminded them of what they lost, because your rage whispered freedom into their suffocation. Your rage is not just yours, it's contagious. Empires die, thrones crumble, crowns rot, but rage survives. Rage is immortal, rage is memory, rage is refusal, rage is freedom. That's why Epictetus still speaks. His masters are dust, his empire is gone, but his rage lives, his freedom lives, his voice still sounds. And that's why your rage will outlive this world, because scars are eternal, because fire is immortal, because rage never dies. Freedom is forever. If you felt your rage live beyond every silence, it's because you're a Catharsian. Freedom is not the absence of chains, it's not the presence of wealth, it's not the approval of crowds. Freedom is rage that refuses to die, because rage laughs at chains, rage mocks exile, rage survives silence. That's why Epictetus was freer in slavery than emperors were in thrones. That's why you are freer in exile than placeholders are in applause. That's why rage becomes freedom. Rage is freedom. The world calls rage shame. They call it immaturity. They call it weakness. But rage is freedom because only Catharsians carry it. That's why Epictetus was crowned even in chains, because his rage proved his soul was untouchable, because his fire marked him as chosen, because his survival revealed him as immortal. And that's why your rage crowns you now, because your scars prove it. You thought rage was destroying you, but it was forging you, because rage sharpened your fire. Rage striped away illusions. Rage taught you freedom. That's why you've grown stronger with every rejection, because rage transformed exile into strength. Rage turned scars into proof. Rage carried you through silence. You are not broken by rage, you are forged by it. Leaders are not born in applause. They're not made in thrones. They're not crowned in comfort. Leaders are forged in rage, in freedom, because rage trains you to endure without belonging. Rage sharpens you to speak without approval. Rage teaches you to carry fire without apology. That's why Epictetus, a slave, became greater than kings. And that's why you, scarred and exiled, already carry leadership. You are a leader. Don't waste time in their systems, among placeholders, in their mediocrity. You don't belong there. Inside Diogenes' barrel, rage is carried as leadership. Enter Diogenes' barrel today on Patreon and begin your path to become the leader you were always meant to be. Rage isolates, it always has, because the crowd fears it. Placeholders mock it, empires punish it. But that separation was proof, because rage separates the Catharsians from the ordinary. It separates fire from mediocrity. It separates freedom from placeholders. You are freedom. You're a Catharsian. That's why you've always felt different, because rage revealed you, because rage set you apart. It crowned you as a Catharsian. You've hidden it long enough, buried it, apologized for it, feared it. But rage was never meant to be hidden, because rage is crown, rage is freedom, rage is leadership. That's why it must be carried openly, because hiding rage buries freedom, silencing rage suffocates truth, denying rage kills immortality, kills the fire. Your crown must be worn, your rage must be fire, your leadership must be open. Your rage is not just for you, it exposes them, because when you burn, they see their slavery. When you rage, they feel their silence. When you speak, they remember their chains. That's why they've always tried to silence you, because your rage humiliated them. Your scars mocked their obedience. Your fire revealed their emptiness. Your rage is exposure, and that's why it's sacred. Rage was never accident, it was never weakness or shame, it was always the path. Because Catharsians are not crowned by thrones, they are crowned by rage. Catharsians are not chosen by applause, they are chosen by freedom. Catharsians are not elevated by empires, they are elevated by fire. That's why Epictetus burned. That's why you burn, because rage was always the path to freedom. They shackled him, they silenced him, they enslaved him, but Epictetus burned, because rage cannot be poisoned, fire cannot be chained, freedom cannot be touched. That's why Epictetus' words live centuries later, because rage became his immortality, because fire became his crown, because freedom became his legacy. And that's why your rage has survived, because it was never weakness, it was never madness, it was never shame, it was freedom. Masters owned his body, but never his soul. Systems enslaved his life, but never his fire. Chains scarred his flesh, but never his rage. That's why Epictetus was freer in slavery than emperors were in power. And that's why you are freer in exile than placeholders are in applause, because rage cannot be owned, fire cannot be silenced, freedom cannot be killed. If your rage has been untouchable, it's because you were crowned from the beginning. You didn't ask for it, you didn't want it, but rage made you one. It made you a leader, because your scars awaken others. Your fire exposes lies. Your rage refuses silence. That's leadership, not titles, not crowns, not applause. Leadership is fire. Leadership is survival. Leadership is freedom. That's why others follow you, even when you feel alone, because they feel your fire. They see your rage, they see your crown, they see your freedom. This is why the Catharsian path exists, to turn rage into clarity, to transform fire into immortality, to crown scars as leadership. Three paths await: the Pythagorean path, for those who will discipline their rage into sharpened strength; Diogenes' beryl, for those who will wear rage openly as crown, mocking the thrones of mediocrity; the Aurelius council, for those who will rise as leaders, carrying rage as freedom and awakening others. You thought rage made you weak. You thought rage made you broken, but it didn't. Rage made you free. Rage made you Catharsian. You were never ordinary. You were never meant to fit in. That's why you always felt different. That's why you've been misunderstood. You felt like you don't belong here because you don't. You are Epictetus. You are fire. You are freedom. You're a Catharsian. Don't waste more time in their systems. Don't waste time in their mediocrity. Don't waste time among placeholders. You belong to the Catharsians. Join the Catharsians today and begin your path as the leader you were always meant to be.